everyone, and thank you for joining me today with Chess Tutorial. Today I want to discuss some simple stuff, some really important principles in chess, and principles dealing with the pieces, okay? So let's start off like this. Let's say, okay, well, first of all, remember, I keep saying repeatedly that these four squares are considered the most important squares on the chess board. This is the primary center of the board here. Okay. So what I want to help you to do is understand. For a lot of beginners, I need you to understand the placement of the pieces. Say, for instance, rooks belong on open files. Okay. So if you have a situation to where you do have an open file, you want to always put your rook on an open file. What I mean by that is something like this. Okay, like say that we have here, so this is a semi-open file because it's restricted by black's own pawn. Okay, say for instance you have a rook here, so this is an open file. This is an open file right here. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to be able to. You always want to occupy an open file. Bam. This is where rooks exude their most power at. Is on an open file. Okay. Now, if there's ever opportunity where, okay, well, we have a situation like this where he threatens here. Now, you don't want to necessarily. You don't want if you don't absolutely have to. You don't want to allow your rook to retreat, because the idea is this: you don't want to allow him. If you move out of the way here, you don't want to allow him to take over the file. This is a powerful position for the white rook now, okay? So it's like this. If he doesn't surrender the file, then you don't surrender the file either. If anything, this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to trade it out, swap out rooks, okay? Because if he can't have it, because if you can't have it, then he can't have it either. The best thing to do is to swap out the rooks, okay? So remember, anytime that you have an opportunity to place a rook on an open file, or even a rank, this is what you want to do, okay? Rooks belong on open ranks and files. Remember, this is a semi-open file. It's not complete. And if you do want to take full control over this file, then you will make arrangements to swap the pawn out so that your so that your rook can completely take over the file. Rooks are at their at their maximum strength when they are on the same file together. Actually, two rooks on the same file are stronger than one queen, okay? A queen is worth 9, a rook is worth 5 apiece, okay? So they're actually worth 1 pawn more than the actual queen. In an actual battle, a queen couldn't defeat 2 rooks, because if she takes one of them, then the other one takes hers. There's still one remaining, all right? So 2 rooks, if you have an opportunity to trade out 2 rooks for a queen, I would. Well, actually, really depending on depending on the situation. Okay. So now, when you have a queen, when you have 2 rooks and a queen, and they're all lined up together, that's a lot of power. So in chess, this is what we call a gun. Okay. This is a very, very, very powerful situation here, with all that power on one file. Okay, so let's understand a little bit about knights. Okay, now for knights, the best, what I believe is the best defender against knights are pawns, because with your pawns, you can use pawns to take away the flight squares for knights. That's a great defender, so you have to watch the pawns when they are being attacked by the knight. Now, it's very important to know the movement of your knight. So we're going to look at it like this. Now, every time a knight is on a dark square, a dark color square, it can only go to a white color square. So when you have your knight, and you can just look at the color square that it's on, So you can limit to what you have to look at by only looking for light squares. Light square here, light square here, okay? Now, let's put him on the light square. Every time a knight is on a white square or a light square, he can only go to another dark square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 light squares. So also what helps you to understand, to limit, especially if you plan on the clock. Okay, so you want to first you can just look at all the light squares to limit what you have to look at, and then you need to understand how many moves that you actually have with your knight at a specific location on the board. Okay, so in the corners of the board, a knight always has only 2 moves to make on the corners of the board. Okay, in the center of the board, the knight has 8 moves that he can make when he's in the center of the board. So here we go. We're on the dark square. Look at all the light square. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I need, so to limit what I have to look at, I already know that I'm looking for light squares, and I already know that my knight has 8 options when he's in the center of the board. Okay. So now when you look at it on the sides of the board, the knight has how many options when he's on the sides of the board? He has 1, 2, 3, 4. He only has 4 options when he's on the side of the board. So it helps to understand exactly where your knight can go, to know where your knight can go at any place on the board. So remember, in the corners of the board, he only has 2 places to go. On the sides of the board, the knight always have 4 places to go. And in the center of the board, he has 8 places to go. Of course, though, you must remember that unless his flight squares are impeded by other pawns, then it actually limits how far and where he actually gets to go. Okay. So remember your knight. Whatever, if it's on a dark square, he can only go to a light square. If it's on a light square, he can only retreat to a dark square. Okay. So these are just some basics of chess pieces in their positions. Okay. Now realistically, we have the queen in the wrong side. For beginning players, always remember that we have if you have the board set up right. If you have the light square on the right hand side, and the queen is always on her own color. Okay. Now, as far as let's look at the bishops. Okay. Now we know the bishops can only travel one-dimensionally. Okay. They can only travel on their respective colors. So what the bishops are great at is being able to traverse the whole the length of the board virtually. Okay, so they can attack from long distance, and they're also really good at attacking center squares as well. Okay, and important squares. Remember in the last video we talked about a square, the weak squares for black and for white, and the reason that bishop to c4 is so popular because it does attack the weak square here on f7 for black. Okay, and vice versa. C5 for black attacks f2, which is the weak square for black. Now, I got 2 of these on the same color. So here, that makes it, that's a real devastating attack for black. This is a very good square. Now, with the bishops, when you do have a bishop pair, if you have an opportunity through the course of your game to hang on, especially in the middle game and going towards the end, if you have an opportunity to hang on to your bishop pair, the bishop pair is devastating. Okay. Now, having one bishop, you can only touch. You're limited. Okay. If you have a bishop here and I have a knight here. Okay. Now this knight is in This is like in a one-dimensional reality for this bishop, because he can never, ever touch that square. Okay, but when you have two, a bishop pair, potentially these two bishops can touch every single square on the board. Okay? Every single square on the board can be touched by these two bishops. So if you have an opportunity to, because sometimes it is important to create imbalances in the game. An imbalance is, trading trading a rook, trading a bishop for a knight. So you create an imbalance in the game, and those are so important also. But two, like I said, if you have an opportunity to preserve both of your bishops and have a bishop pair in the middle game, going toward the end, you'll have a devastating advantage over your opponent. Okay, and also with the knights, that I forget. Now the knights can also eventually touch every square on the board, and the knights. I believe that the knights are more powerful than a bishop in the end game when there's hardly anything on the board. And the reason is because, as I said before, the bishop is stuck on his own color in a one-dimensional reality. In the end game, the knight can actually go any place on the board and touch and subsequently touch every square on the board. All right? So the knight can be devastating and increases his power later in the game. Well, in what we call the end game. Okay, so let's just a little quick review here. Anytime that we have an opportunity to create an to put a rook on the open file, we want to take advantage of that. There's the knight. When the knight is in the corner of the board, it has 2 moves. On the sides of the board, it has 4 moves. In the center of the board, it has 8 moves. If a knight is on a light colored square, it can only retreat to a dark colored square, and vice versa. Okay, having 2 bishop pairs in the middle game and in the end game is very powerful. Okay, so yeah, so we'll leave it right there for now. Just a little quick review on these specific principles for chess. All right, for the chess pieces. I'm sorry. You have a good rest of your evening, and thank you for watching my tutorial. If you like it, please push like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.